At this point, you have written your thesis statement and you have identified your quote or your citation. Now is the part where you need to start putting your essay together. The first step that you need to do is introduce your quote. To do that, we're going to be working with this first part of our supporting evidence. The first thing that it asks us to do is add a transition. If I take a look at the transition page that is available on Schoology, I want to find the box that says Cite It, because citing it is what we are doing. On this page, we have a couple options. We have a transition that says, as illustrated in, and then a source. This source is going to be the title. So we'll always say The Great Gatsby when we got to source. We have options. We could say, as illustrated in The Great Gatsby, as explained in The Great Gatsby, as documented in The Great Gatsby, as shown in The Great Gatsby. That could be a good option to transition into our citation. We could also say, for example, in The Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald writes, or for example, in The Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald shows or explains. We could also say according to F. Scott Fitzgerald or according to The Great Gatsby. Your transition is your choice. I'm going to choose to say, as documented in The Great Gatsby. On my outline, I'll add that here. The next line says, I need to restate my supporting reason. This goes directly back up to my thesis. Right now, our supporting reason, we only have one. So I just need to restate that supporting reason here. When I restate it, I need to make sure that I'm rewording so that I'm not just repeating what I say, I'm simply reminding my readers what it is I'm proving. So my supporting reason says, George physically presents himself as rich when he is really poor. To restate it, I could say something like, George is poor, but he physically shows he is rich. By wearing a nice suit. That's going to be the first sentence to introduce my quote. To help my reader better understand this quote, I need to then paraphrase where I got this quote from. Paraphrasing is when you take the author's words and put it into your own words. When paraphrasing an event, you want to make sure you include who is talking, where it took place, and what happened. So I want to take a look at my quote again. It reads, the only crazy I was when I married him. I knew right away I made a mistake. He borrowed somebody's best suit to get married in and never told me about it. And a man came after it one day when he was out. I need to make sure I say who was talking. So this was Myrtle. I need to say where it takes place. This is in Tom's apartment in New York. And I need to say what happened. Myrtle is explaining why she married George. So I want to add that into this line here. Myrtle is talking to Mrs. McKee. In Tom's apartment in New York. She is explaining why she married George. So in my own words, I have explained what is happening in my quote. So to introduce my citation, my whole paragraph reads, as documented in The Great Gatsby, George is poor, but he physically shows he is rich by wearing a nice suit. Myrtle is talking to Mrs. McKee in Tom's apartment in New York. She is explaining why she married George. The only crazy I was when I married him. I knew right away I made a mistake. He borrowed somebody's best suit to get married in and never told me about it. And a man came after it one day when he was out.